Namaste मेरे प्यारे बच्चों and welcome back. Today we're going to revise a really beautiful and very important story for your exams, The Last Leaf by O. Henry. It's a story with such a powerful message about hope, friendship and sacrifice. So let's break it all down, shall we?
I know. Exams are just around the corner and the tension is building up. But don't you fear when your favorite tutor is here. We're going to make this so simple and clear for you. And hey, if you want more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and let me know in the comments what chapter you want next. Cello, let's start. All right, so our story starts with two best friends. They're young artists, living together in a small apartment, but their life is about to change because of one very big problem. Let's meet them. So on one hand, we have Sue. She's the caring, loyal friend who's trying her best. And then we have her roommate, Johnsy. They're both artists, dreaming of making it big. But suddenly, their happy life gets hit by a storm when Johnsy gets really sick. She gets something called pneumonia. It's a very serious lung illness, Beta. And the story is set in November. So you can imagine, the weather is cold and harsh, which just makes everything worse. Poor Johnsy is just lying in her bed, getting weaker and weaker every single day. The doctor came every day, but nothing was working. And then he told Sue something absolutely crucial. He said the real problem wasn't just the pneumonia. The bigger problem was that Johnsy had given up. She had lost her will to live. And the doctor believed that no medicine in the world, no matter how powerful, can help a person who doesn't want to live. And this is where the story takes a very strange turn. Because Johnsy has lost all hope, she gets this peculiar idea stuck in her head. And this idea becomes the center of the entire story. Let's see what it was. So, from her bed, Johnsy could see an old ivy plant on the brick wall outside her window. It was autumn, so naturally the leaves were falling. And all day long, Johnsy would just lie there, watching the leaves fall, one by one. And she started counting them, backwards. She would whisper, 10, 9, 8. Can you imagine how worried Sue must have been hearing this? Soon, there were only 5 leaves left clinging to that poor plant. Just 5. And this was her strange belief. She had completely convinced herself that the moment the very last leaf fell off that vine, she would also die. She had tied her life to a dying leaf. It just shows you how hopeless and depressed she had become, right? Sue was feeling so helpless, So she runs downstairs to get help from their neighbor, a man who is about to become the hero of our story, Old Behrman. So who was this Behrman? Well, he was an old painter, about 60 years old, who lived downstairs. He was kind of grumpy, a little rough around the edges, but he was also very protective of Sue and Johnsy. And deep down, he had this one unfulfilled dream. His whole life, he had wanted to paint a masterpiece. So Sue tells Behrman everything about Johnsy's foolish idea of the last leaf. At first, Behrman gets really angry. How can she be so foolish, she shouts. But underneath all that anger, he was a kind man with a golden heart. He was terribly worried about Johnsy, and he agreed to help. And now we come to the turning point of the story. That night, a terrible storm hit. Heavy rain, icy cold winds, it was awful. Everyone, including Sue, was sure that by morning, that last little leaf would be gone for sure. Let's see what happened. The next morning, Johnsy, in a very weak voice, tells Sue to open the curtains. She wanted to see the last leaf fall. Sue was so nervous, her hands must have been shaking. But when she pulled back the curtains, they both saw it. The leaf was still there. After that horrible storm, that single leaf was still clinging to the vine. Amazing. Seeing that tiny, brave leaf fighting so hard against the storm, it changed everything for Johnsy. It was like a spark of hope. She realized how wrong she had been. She told Sue, "It is a sin to want to die." That little leaf gave her the will to live again. Her fight was back. So as Johnsy starts to recover, we get some very sad news from downstairs. The building's caretaker finds Old Behrman terribly sick with pneumonia. And near his bed are some clues. His clothes and shoes are soaking wet. There's a ladder, a lantern that's still lit, and some brushes and green and yellow paint. What do you think happened?
And then the final truth is revealed. That leaf on the wall, it wasn't real. Old Behrman had gone out in that freezing, terrible storm, and he painted it there. He painted that leaf to give Johnsy hope. This painting, this was his masterpiece. It saved her life. But in creating it, he caught pneumonia himself and died.
What a touching ending, Haina. So powerful. Okay, now let's quickly go over the important themes and some questions that can definitely come in your exam. So pay close attention to this part, Beta. All right, this is a very, very common question. What exactly was Behrman's masterpiece? And what made it so special? Think about it for a second. Here's how you can structure your answer. First, the masterpiece was, of course, the painted ivy leaf. Second, it was artistically brilliant because it was so realistic that it fooled everyone. But the most important point, Beta, is that it was a masterpiece because it saved a human life. It was a symbol of hope. And in this ultimate act of sacrifice, Behrman finally achieved his lifelong dream. Okay, here's another super important question that really gets to the heart of the story's message. What was the real cure for Johnsy? The medicine from the doctor? Or her own willingness to live? Let's break this down. Of course, medicine is important to treat the body. But this story shows us that the will to live is what heals our mind and our spirit. Medicine is helpful, but the will to live is essential. The doctor's medicine wasn't working until Behrman's painted masterpiece gave Johnsy back her own desire to survive. So the ultimate cure was her own will to live. Simple, Hannah. And as we finish, I want to leave you with this question to think about. This story is such a beautiful example of friendship and sacrifice. Behrman gave his own life for Johnsy. So think about it. What does true sacrifice really mean to you? And that's all for the last leaf. I really hope this summary made everything crystal clear for you. All the very best for your exams. I know you are going to do wonderfully. If this helped you, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.